Hi, this is Elizabeth, and I'm going to be doing a quick review slash analysis on It's a Wonderful Life, my personal favorite movie of all time. What is remarkable about It's a Wonderful Life is how well it holds up over the years. It's one of those ageless movies like Casablanca or The Third Man that improves with age. What was once a post-war box office flop has become a cultural phenomenon, recognized as one of the greatest cinematic masterpieces of all time. Capra interrogates some of the key contradictions at the heart of American life in this film. Contradictions include individual versus community, adventure versus domesticity, success versus an ordinary life. He stages these contradictions in the main character protagonist George Bailey, played by the amazing James Stewart, who is a citizen of the small town Bedford Falls. He is also the president of the local building and loan. As the film begins, we don't know exactly what has happened to George, only that he is in serious trouble and has reached the end of his rope, but he is about to be aided by divine intervention in the form of a guardian angel, seeking to earn his wings. We learn about George's life as the angel does in a series of flashbacks. Since the beginning of the film, it is established that George Bailey dreams of leaving Bedford Falls, traveling the world and becoming a metropolitan architect.
I'm going out exploring someday. You watch.
I'm shaking the dust of this crummy little town off my feet, and I'm gonna see the world.
However, time and time again, his selflessness and his drive to do the right thing repeatedly come in the way of these dreams. We also learn about Bedford Falls, a close-knit community of mostly good people leading simple lives. However, they are under constant threat of being taken over by a ruthless businessman called Mr. Potter. The only thing in Mr. Potter's way of getting control of Bedford Falls is George's father.
Can't do that. These families have children.
They're not my children.
But they're somebody's children, Mr. Potter.
Are you running a business or a charity war?
Well, all
Not with my money.
Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a...
Mr. Potter is a clear representation of corruption and evil. And his foil is not George himself, but Mary Hatch, George's love interest and eventual wife, a compassionate young woman who is okay with staying and living in Bedford Falls for the entirety of her life. Both Potter and Mary show up in every flashback representing George's desires for fame and fortune on one hand, and his drive to do the right thing for his community on the other. His drive to do the right thing overpowers and takes over his life, and for the majority of the film, George is not rewarded for doing the right thing. In fact, he is punished. Every noble sacrifice for Bedford Falls makes Bedford Falls feel more like a trap, and instead of bringing him closer to the community he is helping, Capra shows him isolated. Despite this, George remains resilient until the very end, when his uncle misplaces $8,000, which puts him in danger of going to jail for fraud. George Bailey comes to the conclusion that he is worth more dead than alive and contemplates suicide. Clarence Oddbody, Angel Second Class, however, shows George what Bedford Falls would have been like had he never existed. What he encounters is a total nightmare situation. Bedford Falls has become Pottersville and is filled with corruption. All of his dreams of exciting life and adventure have returned as perverted versions of themselves. George is brought to a realization of how much his apparently aimless existence has meant to others, and he retracts his wish. For showing him the futility of feeling futile, Clarence is rewarded with a beautiful pair of wings. George's core issue and conflict revolves around the seemingly eternal struggle between chasing our dreams and serving the needs of others. It is the struggle we have between having the feeling of limitless potential and finding it challenged by external limitations. Because of the idea of individualism that society revolves around, In his perception, George Bailey is a failure, and this is contrasted between him and his younger brother Harry, who goes on to live the hero's journey George had always dreamed of. By assuming the individual is self-reliant, every failure becomes a personal failure. Every dream left unfulfilled becomes painful emptiness. However, after being exposed to the images that Clarence showed him, he has a newfound appreciation for his life. But it is very important to note that his reality hasn't changed. He still has the same problems he had before. However, his attitude has changed. Clarence showed the impact George had on his community, but he was also revealed the impact his community had on him. George realizes time and time again throughout his entire life, people have done good things for him as well. And the reality of the situation has always been there. Clarence just made it clear to George, who was blinded by his idea of fulfillment. Yes, it is important to have dreams, but it is also important to not punish ourselves if our lives do not become the perfect adventures that so much our society expects them to be. It may not sound inspirational, but that's why It's a Wonderful Life is still relevant today. It breaks the illusion that we are and should be the absolute masters of our own destinies, that we are on our own. It shows how deeply our lives are intertwined with each other, how others can cause us misery, and others fill our lives with joy and happiness. It shows we can find meaning in helping others and sacrificing for them. But more importantly, it shows the importance of acknowledging those who have sacrificed for us. The world reflects what we project onto it. If we let ourselves become cold and cynical, the world will respond in kind. But if we look for goodness and compassion, we will find it.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast. To my big brother, George, the richest man in town.
I want to put into your heads that the world is not all evil. Yes, we do have nightmares, but we also have dreams. We do have villainy, but we also have great compassion among ourselves. That's all I'm here for, I really. Trying to tell you that there's good in the world and that it's wonderful.